Hey there. Today I wanted to talk about how to get yourself to do things that you think you should be doing, but you're not doing. So these are things like exercise or your budgeting or eating healthy, or there's lots of things, right? So many things that we think we should be doing that we're not actually doing that we really want to do. And we just don't know why we can't get ourselves to do this. So first things first is I like to look at why I actually want the thing, right? So I'm going to stick with exercise because this one's really personal to me, and I think it applies to a lot of them, and it can go all the ways, right? So I know that exercise is good for me, and everybody tells me exercise is good, right? But I really need to find out why I want to do that thing. And it doesn't really matter what your reason is. If it is that you just want to be skinny, or if it's that you want to be strong, or if it's that you want to be able to run a marathon, or whatever the case is, just know your reasons why. And then even take it one step just deeper. So, right. So if I say I want to be skinny, why do I want to be skinny? If I say I want to be strong, why do I want to be strong? If I want to say I want to run a marathon, why do I want to run a marathon? And we just really start to look at our reasons why we're doing those things, because the reason we're not actually doing that action is because we don't really have good reason to do it, other than somebody said, my doctor said I should be working out. My doctor said I should, people say I should get 10,000 steps a day or whatever, right? And it's just not a very compelling reason. So the first step is you want to find a very compelling reason to do the thing that you are thinking you should be doing, right? So maybe it's eating healthier, like, right, I should get my cholesterol down. Why? Why do you want to get your cholesterol down? What does that mean to you? How will it change your life? And really start to make those reasons personal, so it doesn't become like somebody else just telling me what I should do. That can be really helpful just right off the bat. Okay. So start looking at those kinds of things. And then the next step after that is finding your reasons why. I would also look at the reasons why you're not doing it. What are the obstacles that are in your way? So is it time, right? I don't have time to train for a marathon. Or is it the money? I don't have the money to spend at a gym. Or you do, but you're spending the money someplace else. Or you have thoughts like, the reason I don't eat healthy is because it's expensive, or my family doesn't want to do it. So you start to look at the reasons why you're not doing those things, other than like, I just, I have all these excuses. But I really want you to like list out the excuses and really start to look at each one of those, right? Is it that you don't really have the time to work out, or are you making it too big of a deal, right? So for a long time when I had little kids, I tried to keep my workouts shorter, right? Like I would like to do them in the morning, and I tried to find things I could do at home, or I would take the stroller. My husband, who works a full-time job, he would keep his exercise really short in the morning, do 10 to 15 minutes, those kinds of things, and just kind of split it up. So instead of, because we get in our brains like the time thing, like, oh, it has to take this long, right? Or to prepare a healthy meal, or budgeting has to take a long period of time. So we look at those things and we say, I don't have the time, but not all of that is actually true. And so we start to look at our reasons for not doing that, and like really see if those are good reasons, and not to be like, oh, these are just excuses and we don't want to look at them. We look at them and we come up with solutions or hypotheses in order to like reroute ourselves around those things. So, right, if it is the amount of money, right? So we could say going to the gym is too expensive. Maybe I could work at home. Maybe I could, cut one of these bills that I don't need, or whatever the thing is. And we start problem solving. Okay. And so we just look at all of those, what people would call excuses, but they're really, your brain thinks are legitimate reasons why. So I don't like to call them excuses, because it sounds kind of like we're just saying those aren't real, but they are real. Your brain thinks they're real. And so we really have to address them. Okay. So one, why is it that you're doing, why do you want to do the thing? Two, why are you not doing the thing? And then three is, I want to talk about minimum baseline goals. This goes back kind of to the time thing that I was talking about. when we are starting something, we have a tendency to kind of jump in and do things really big, right? Like we've all been there. We've seen somebody who's like, I'm going to start a diet, right? And I'm going to get rid of everything in my house. I'm cutting out sugar. I'm cutting out flour. I'm cutting, right? All the carbs, all the things. And so we jump with like both feet forward, and then it lasts maybe a day, maybe a week, right? And before we know it, it's all done, right? Same thing with exercise. Everybody's like, oh, I'm going to go to the gym for an hour every morning. I'm going to get up an hour earlier. And the problem with this is it's just too big of a change for our brains to like get on board with. So what I like to have is called a minimum baseline goal. And this isn't like, I'm going to exercise even for 30 minutes. Like my minimum baseline for things is usually like 5 minutes. Okay. So when I used to do yoga pretty regularly, one of the ways that I got myself to do yoga was I was like, all I have to do is get on my mat. That was my minimum baseline goal. I didn't actually have to even do yoga, right? Like my whole thing was like how to get on my mat, and I had to be on my mat. I could literally lay on the mat and not do yoga. That was basically what I told myself. So that I could get myself to get up, get dressed, and get on the mat, right? The same thing goes with now that I'm doing more gym type stuff. Like I like to switch up what I'm doing, right? So if I'm talking about going to the gym and I'm going to run, I have a minimum baseline of like, I go to the gym and I walk for 5 minutes. Right. So no matter what, like there's really not any excuse for me. If it is a money thing, right, then you can come up with something else. Like maybe it's walking at home, or if you have a treadmill or something, there's all kinds of things. You can watch YouTube videos, right? But I set that goal at 5 minutes. Why not 30? Why isn't that like do some yoga, right? The reason why is because the hardest part to starting something is the beginning. Right? It's to actually doing the thing. So I like to think about, if we know anything about physics, we talk about an object at rest stays at rest unless acted upon by an unbalanced force. So we are an object. Our body is an object, and it wants to stay at rest. Like if it can just lay in bed, that's what our body would like to do, right? Because it takes energy to move. And so we have to, with our thoughts, create that unbalanced force. And so getting the ball rolling, right? If we're thinking about a snowball and we're like going to roll it down the hill, the hardest part, we got to get it going. And so that's why we set a minimum baseline goal. It's also about creating an identity of who we are. So let's go back to yoga, right? Like I would set my minimum baseline as I have to get on my yoga mat. And then I would be on my yoga mat. And then you're on it. And then you're like, oh, I can do a little bit here, a little bit there. Maybe I want to watch a yoga video or something, right? Or maybe I have that pre-planned. That can also be a very, very helpful. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. But I want you to just think about like, once we're there, we've already done the hardest part. Now we're like doing the things, right? Me going to the gym for 5 minutes to walk. I'm at the gym. Am I really going to only stay for 5 minutes? Probably not, but I might just literally get on my yoga mat and lay there. That is okay. Like I've had those days where I'm like, I don't feel like it, but I've reached that baseline goal, that minimum baseline goal. And so I'm okay with it. I'm not beating myself up for not doing the half hour of yoga. I'm not any of those things. That even if I had a plan, my minimum baseline, no matter what, was to get on my yoga mat. And if the plan fell through, the plan fell through, but that was never the goal. The goal was the minimum baseline. Okay. And so that can help us to get started, right? So one of the things I like to do is I like to take things back to the very simplest parts. So even if it is like getting to the gym is hard, right? So I set a minimum baseline of like walking on the treadmill for 5 minutes or something. And for whatever reason, my brain is like, this is dumb. I know you're trying to trick me, right? I know we're going to be on there longer than 5 minutes, right? What I like to do is I like to take it back even smaller. It's like, just put on your shoes. right? Just get out of bed, just put on your workout clothes, right? Like I'm just doing one little thing. I'm not thinking farther out into the future. I'm thinking of like, oh, I can actually do this. I'm really tired, but I can roll out of bed, right? So we take these things that we don't want to do, our brain, we want them, like in the big picture, long-term brain wants them, but present brain is like, no, this is too much work, right? So we have to do little tiny things to get that ball rolling, right? I roll out of bed. I go get my clothes on. I put my shoes on, right? And that's those things. It's one step after the next. And I think this is actually something that I've learned from being a distance runner is like, how do you get through a race? You just take one step at a time. And that's how we bring it back down. We bring it back down to the present and what we're doing right now, because otherwise our brain gets overwhelmed by the big thing. So say, like, I'm going to take this, for example, even if I want to train for a marathon or whatever the case is, and I have to do a long run, I still like to bring it back down to the present moment and what I can do right now. And that will stop my brain from being overwhelmed about training for 12 miles, right? Whatever the case is. And so we just like, what am I doing now? So we bring it back down. Okay. The other part, so set a minimum baseline goal. I would always suggest something small. So if it's budgeting, saying I'm going to look at my bank account once a day or however often you want to do that, right? And so that, and if we want to bring that back down, it might be, what's the first thing I need to do? If it's on your phone, open your phone. If it's on your computer, sit at your computer, right? Those are the little steps that get us going, right? So our brain's like, oh, budgeting, hard, big, scary thing, right? But sitting down at my computer, clicking on the website to my bank, that's not hard, right? And then looking at things, right? And so we start to like break things down into the smallest, simplest steps. So minimum baselines are super great for this. Another way this could apply if you're eating healthy, right? Instead of like, I'm going to cut everything out, right? What's my minimum baseline, right? Like I'm going to have a protein for breakfast every morning, or something along those lines, right? Whatever that thing is. And then that way, that's our minimum baseline, right? I'm going to eat vegetables with every meal or something, right? And so it doesn't become this huge overwhelming thing. We're just like, oh, I just need to eat a carrot with my lunch. Not a big deal, right? And so it's like, how easy is it to get out baby carrots, right? Open the fridge door, open the drawer, pull out the carrots, those kinds of things. And we start with those little tiny things. So our brain doesn't get overwhelmed by this huge arcing, like big giant goal that we have. So the big giant goal may be to get our cholesterol down, or it may be to have so much money in savings or whatever. And then we're just breaking it down into like little tiny baby steps. And that's how we get there. Okay. But part of that, we have a bigger goal, a bigger result that we're after. We also need to have a plan, right? And it doesn't have to be a great plan, right? So it might not be the perfect plan. And this is where people get hung up. They're like, oh, I set this goal to lose this much weight or do this thing, and it didn't happen, right? And so then they think that setting goals is the problem. But it's not the problem. It's the way that we're looking at goals. Goals aren't for us to like judge ourselves by. They're not to make us mean that we're terrible people or that we can't do things. They're giving us guidance and direction. So we have a goal, and then we're going to come up with our plan, right? So for me, I'm going to go back to exercise. I have a plan of how I want to exercise, right? Like what days I want to run, what days I want to stretch and do yoga, strength training days, those kinds of things. And it's not mine. It's pretty flowy, if you will, right? Like I'm not very, I don't think of myself as a very big structured person, but I do like to know what I'm going to be doing the next day so that it's easier when I get to the gym. I know what I'm doing, right? Just a little bit easier. I don't have to think, oh, I'm here at the gym, but what am I doing? Right? Like I know that today is a strength training day, or I know that today's a yoga day, or whatever the case is. And then that way I like go into it knowing what I'm doing, and I can visualize those things beforehand. So that's very helpful. So same with like budgeting, meal planning. I'm trying to think of other things that people think we should do that we're like not doing. But along those lines, we start to say, okay, this is my plan. And really that plan, I want you to look at it as more of a hypothesis to get to that goal, right? Like we don't actually know what it's going to take to get to that goal. We don't know, like things change, plans change, bodies change, budgets change, emergencies happen, all kinds of things go on. And so I like to think of my plan as like a hypothesis, right? But I'm committed to doing it. And that is where all those little baby steps come in. We start getting committed and we start changing that identity of who we are. I'm somebody who budgets. I'm somebody who works out daily. I'm somebody who eats healthy food. Whatever that case is, we're starting to change our identity, but we also have a plan, right? And we're taking those baby steps there, right? So, and like I said, I love the baby steps because like, even though I have my plan to, be able to do some pose in yoga, right? Whatever that is, right? But my minimum baseline goal is just to get on my mat. You're like, well, how does that work? That's never going to get you there. It might not, but it helps get me to that identity. And then also we know that that's also helps build the momentum. And some days we just have to lay on the mats, right? Like you don't feel good. You've been up all night. You got sick kids. You're sick, all kinds of things that could happen. Right? That doesn't mean we're not committed to the goal. It just means that we're willing to tweak and change and be adaptable to what's happening around us. Okay. So we might have a plan to go do a 30-minute yoga video, but we're sick. But my minimum baseline is just to get on my mat. So then I know, right? Why is that? Because I identify as somebody who does yoga. I'm a yogi, right? And then also it's building into that. And then also we have that little bit of dopamine hit from being the person who follows through on what we say we're going to do, right? We have that minimum baseline goal. So hopefully that helps. This is how you can get yourself to do things that you don't want to do, but you think you should. So we start off, like I said, step one, I'm going to go over these again. Decide, find out your reasons for doing that thing, your real reasons. Why do you really want that thing? 2, look at your obstacles, what's stopping you. And obstacles, I mean excuses, right? So what are the excuses you're using? And then find hypothesis solutions to go around those, right? Set minimum baseline goals and then set a plan to get to those bigger goals, right? And I didn't really cover setting those bigger goals, but know what you want, right? That's part of that. You have to know what you want. Why are we doing this for? Why am I eating healthier? Why am I reducing my cholesterol, right? Why is that important to me? That's super important. We need to know why we're doing the thing. Otherwise, we're just not going to be that committed to it, right? And then we got to commit with that. And that's a feeling that we create with our thoughts, right? So it's a thought like, I'm going to do this no matter what, right? That's one of my favorite committed thoughts. I'm going to do this no matter what. And that's how I keep myself to keep showing up when I don't want to, right? I'm going to go for it. I'm going to do this. I'm committed to this. All of those are simple thoughts that we can have that will keep us. And we have to practice them over and over again. Practice them. I like to put reminders in my phone and they pop up and show me new thoughts that I'm working on, right? And so that way we can just keep doing those things. And that is how we get to do those things that we should be doing, that people are telling us we should be doing, right? Is that we get on board and we know that we should be doing, and then we commit to it. Like I said, hopefully this helps. If you have any questions, or if you just reach out to me on Messenger, Facebook, you can email me. Also, if you want to work with me, I would love to work with you. I work with clients one-on-one, and we have 45-minute sessions, and we can get you doing the things that you want to be doing, making the changes in your life that you want to be making. And for some reason you haven't been able to do those things, it's because you need a coach, and I would love to be that person. Like I said, there will be a link to schedule with me in the notes and description. So anyways, have a great day. I will talk to you later. Bye.